Well, the Oilers find themselves trailing in the series again following a 4-3 defeat at the hands of the Vancouver Canucks in game number 3. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Oil Stream Postgame Show live on location at Hudson's White Avenue. Tom Gazzola, Sean Bell with you, and Matty Kassian will be joining us in a little bit. Of course, you can text us 780-218-9999. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can get into the nasty chat. Actually, Belzy and I were laughing because a lot of people are already starting to get into the nasty chat.
It's humming right now.
It's humming. Yeah, absolutely. GCL Diesel, Edmonton's diesel fuel system specialists and providers of critical engine components for over 50 years. And a shout out to YouTube Trev holding things down back at ESTHQ. All right, the Oilers fall 4-3 and are now down in this series 2-1. That was the first time that the Vancouver Canucks have ever won a playoff game in Edmonton. They are 1-5 now, Belzy, lifetime. So the Oilers, I didn't think they deserved a better outcome. They had some opportunities. They hit some posts, bit of a push late. They definitely heavily outshot Vancouver. But just your initial thoughts on the 4-3 loss.
Those are my thoughts, Tom. That is my thought right there. It was an interesting game. Yes, they did outshoot the Vancouver Canucks, but I'm not sure that this was their best game.
No.
Going into it in the pregame show, we talked about them coming out, utilizing the energy, the crowd, and really have that really electric first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I saw it. I'm not sure they came out of the starting blocks the way that they should have. Right. Because then all of a sudden they're down 3-1 and you're chasing the game. And yes, we know that they have high octane offense, but at the end of the day, you can't consistently chase the game game after game after game because that's tiring. It's hard on your body. And you're getting just beat up. So you got to find a better way to show up right from the get-go, right from the start. No soft goals. Your defensive zone was it was shaky, and you just gave up stuff that you have no business giving up in a playoff game. Yeah,
and it was too, right, Belzy?
To me, it was just very frustrating watching that first period. Second period, they wake up, they're better. Yeah. Third period, obviously better. But by that point, you might as well write yourself off when you're going to give up 3 goals in the first period.
All right. Text us 780-218-9999. Belzy hitting the expletive button. I just showed it to you, and you used it nicely. I appreciate that. Matty Kassian will be joining us shortly. All right, I want to get to the game summary and the stats from this one. In the first period, the Oilers did open up the scoring at the 5:37 mark on the power play. Power play 2, Belzy connects for the Oil. Yep. After power play 1, I didn't think it was a particularly good power play, and then power play 2 gets an opportunity. Matthias Ekholm's third of the postseason from Evander Kane, and Darnell Nurse 1-0 Edmonton. Then what you were alluding to, Brock Besser and Elias Lindholm go to work. Elias Lindholm, he gets his 4th on the power play. The Oilers' PK now starting to show some cracks. And we're going to talk about the PK because there are a few things that you noticed when we were watching the press box tonight. So Lindholm gets his 4th on the power play from Besser, and Hughes were tied at 1 at 8:45 on the redirection. Then Besser would get his 6th of the playoffs to make it 2-1 Van at 13:18 from Miller and Myers. And then Brock Besser, again, his 7th. They thought it was his hat-trick goal. They changed that goal to Lindholm, the first one. 3-1 Vancouver at 18:34. Pius Suter with the assist. The Oilers do claw their way back into it. Leon Draisaitl's 7th of the postseason on the power play from Nugent-Hopkins and Bouchard, 3-2 at 3:36. Then Elias Lindholm, I did not like this goal one bit for many reasons. His 2nd of the night, 5th of the playoffs from Miller and Hughes, another power play marker for the Canucks at 17:35. The Oilers did pepper Arturs Shilovs in the third period, but they would only get 1 from Evan Bouchard, his 3rd of the playoffs from Ekholm, and Draisaitl at 18:44. Shots on net heavily favor the Oilers, 45-18. Face-offs, the Canucks again win that battle, 57.6% to 42.4%. That's something we're going to have to talk about because that's possession, Belzy, right? Yep. We want possession. The PK, Not good enough tonight. 2 goals allowed on 3 opportunities. So PK goes 1 for 3. Power play solid, 2 for 4. Has been rock solid all postseason. Red hot. But the PK did let them down tonight. 50 hits for Vancouver to Edmonton's 30.
That one, to me, is a major concern on the hit side.
Okay.
I don't need you to run people through the wall every single time, but we'll definitely talk about that because I've got some thoughts.
It was something you talked about the entirety of the game. Like, whether we were at the rink or when we were here watching the third period, it was something you kept pointing out. Block shots, 23-6 in favor of the Canucks. Giveaways, 15 for Edmonton to 5 for Vancouver. One of them absolutely atrocious by Warren Fogle leads to a Brock Besser goal. Takeaways, 8-6 officially in favor of Vancouver. All right, Belzy. Let's start. You want to go face-offs? You want to talk about the physical play? I'll open it up to you.
It doesn't matter where we start.
Let's start with the physical play because you brought it up.
The physical play to me right now it's not good. Your stars for the Edmonton Oilers are taking abuse. If you look at that last play that just happened right at the end of the game, you've got McDavid getting cross-checked in the face and cross-checked from behind at the exact same time, right? You don't want your stars taking that much punishment. It's getting to be a broken record with, hey, at some point there's got to be some pushback. Besser, easy night. Peterson, easy night. I didn't even know that he played today.
I didn't. I said to you in the second period. Have you noticed the latest Peterson? You said no.
At the end of the day, he's been able to just skate around, do whatever he wants. Like the skill players for Vancouver, it's been ultra easy.
Yeah.
And I'm watching some of the guys on the Oilers, and it's, McDavid is complaining to the refs because he's getting abused every single shift he's out there. Somebody's clutching him, grabbing him, doing something. Well, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Draisaitl's getting run over. Kane got run over. Like you can see the frustration starting to build from the Stars because every single time they touch the puck, something's happening to them. But on the flip side, I'm sorry, we're in the playoffs, and your game might not translate to physicality. And I'm not going to throw guys under the bus, but at the end of the day, we need a bigger push. There needs to be guys that push back on Vancouver Stars. Because if you want to make our guys have a rough night, well, then their guys need to have a rough night.
Tit for tat.
It's tit for tat. So at what point are we sitting here saying, okay, well, we're comfortable with this? Because that game, to me, looked like a regular season hockey game.
I was just going to bring that up. That's something you pointed out when they were trying to tie it up. Right before Evan Bouchard scored, they had the net empty, and we were watching, and I'm like, do you see desperation, Belzy, from them? Like, does it look like they're working their bags off to get to pucks and hustle on them? And you're like, no, it looks like a regular season. You can't have that. And they still only lost 4-3.
Yeah, so there's encouraging signs from the Oilers because they lost 4-3. I wouldn't say it was their best game. I'm not even going to sit here and tell you that they outplayed Vancouver. I personally don't think that was their best game. And at the end of the day, it was 4-3. So there's encouragement from the other side saying, well, if we bring our best game, we probably win. But we got to stop saying that. It's the playoffs.
Bring your best game.
Everything that you do matters on the ice. Everything you do matters on the ice because you're trying to get to the next round.
Right.
And so it's to me, it's just getting tiresome. And Darnell Nurse, you're not feeling your game. That's fine. But find a way to contribute to your hockey team. And we talked about this in the pregame show with Corey Perry. Well, Darnell, I saw you chirping Dakota Joshua. Why don't you just go run somebody? Try to put him in the 15th row of the building. Like make it hard for them because everything that Vancouver got today was easy. Right from the first goal where Besser is able to walk down Main Street, he shoots the puck, there's a tip. Easy on the power play for them. The next one was a set play where they rim it up to the point. He rims it back down. Besser rolls into soft area of the ice. He gets a one-timer with nobody around.
Around.
Third one is a turnover. Besser walks in because everybody's now trying to, overcompensate for the turnover, and they all rush one player. Besser sneaks in behind a guy, scores. Easy.
Yeah.
Every single goal that the Vancouver Canucks scored was an easy goal, and it wasn't hard, and they didn't have to earn it in any way, shape, or form.
I'll even throw in Lindholm's second on the power play there, where he's in the middle of the ice. Oilers don't knock about, and he kind of just takes a whack and knocks in. Yeah. Like, I think the puck was kind of in his feet, and nobody's really accosting him. I said it to you while we were watching. I said it to you late in the game. It just feels like there's no like grit and determination from them on this particular night. So I think that their own worst enemy is basically what I was trying to get
right
at.
now. It seems that way. Like I don't know. I just I had a tough time watching that game because even you look at when Zadorov leveled Kane.
Right.
Well, that same hit happened 3 times. For whatever odd reason, that defenseman's holding the puck just a little bit too long. All of a sudden, he passes it up the strong side, but most guys can read the play, and all of a sudden now he steps up, and then what? He steps up and he levels. Draisaitl almost got his head taken off by Ian Cole.
Yes.
Zadorov levels Kane, and I think, was it Janmark that got hit pretty hard too?
Janmark took one.
Janmark took a couple really big hits. Yeah. So to me, it was very frustrating to watch that game because the way that the Oilers played just allowed Vancouver to impose their will.
All right, 780-218-9999. Lots of texts coming in. Lots of nasty chats coming in. Get in on that if you're watching on YouTube. Tom Gazzola, Sean Bell, live on location. Hudson's White Avenue. Matty Kassian is good to go from his satellite studio. Let's bring in Cass, our game analyst, and YouTube Trev holding things down back at EST HQ. The Oilers lose 4-3 to the Canucks in game number 3, and Edmonton now trailing the series 2-1. All right, Cass, frustrating game to watch, as you heard Belsey say it, and there's a lot to not like about the Oilers tonight. Where do you want to start after hearing Belsey there?
There are many places we could go with this one, boys. What did I not like? I mean, I didn't like that they were their own worst enemies, as you mentioned. I think that is the number one thing today. And I knew, and I sent you a text, Tommy, and it is already in the nasty chat. I know Skinner's going to wear a lot of this one. There's going to be a lot of heat on the goaltending, and I understand why. At the same time, how many times did Leon Draisaitl? Because if we're going to use like a Brock Besser equivalent here, have like 5 seconds all to himself in a prime scoring position. You know, they made some mistakes today as a team. They made some mistakes today, and it cost them. Penalty killing, gave up a little bit too much, wasn't good enough, and that's the game story. You ran up against the goalie that made some saves, that played pretty well in the other end. You still controlled the play for most of the game. I thought you still probably outplayed Vancouver overall, but those big mistakes that you made yourself ultimately put you on your back foot and loses you a hockey game.
Well, there was, 15 turnovers, Cass? So 15 turnovers in a playoff game. You're not managing pucks. You're taking unnecessary risks, and part of that is because you're chasing the game. Yep. So you did yourself a major disservice by coming out the way that you did. Yep. You were lifeless. You were flat. You allowed Vancouver to do what they wanted, and then all of a sudden now you're chasing the game, and you've got to now take those risks, those extra risks, and do different things. And that's a game Vancouver wants to play.
Yeah.
At the end of the
yeah. That's a Rick Tocchet game when they have the lead, right? And when it was 3-2, I thought they were coming back. I was like, okay, they started to get some jam, they had some momentum, and I didn't like the penalty. It was a horrible call on Darnell Nurse, the cross check, and they already had one bad cross check, the one on Ekholm, where I'm like, okay, they killed that off. They should be fine. Then you took another penalty, and right when it happened, I was like, you can't take another penalty here. You were just building that steam and getting some momentum and actually starting to do some good things. And I'm not going to fault Darnell for that. I thought it was a bad call, but you were lifeless, Tom. I expected them to come out of the gate and be spicy.
Yeah.
And they weren't, boys. They were not.
Definitely not. 780-218-9999. Gazzola, Bell, Kassian with you. YouTube Trev holding things down. Let's get into it. All right, let's go. I had these texts. I know we're going to see a lot of Skinner texts tonight. Cass, you kind of already alluded to it. We're going to see a lot of those. We'll get to his performance. We did see Calvin Pickard for the first time in the postseason for the Oilers, getting in the third period. Interesting. That they did that. Although I know a lot of people are probably like, damn right they did. I saw some texts like that, but we'll discuss that in a second. I want to get to this one from Taco first, guys. It says, Tommy, everyone is blaming the refs, but we got to stop looking for excuses. The major difference is that the Canucks buried their chances and the Oilers didn't. What would you guys say to that one?
Cass, you want that one?
You take it first, big boy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I'm not even going to sit here and blame the reffing. I've got my own personal issues with the reffing because I didn't like some of the calls. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to go down that path because the Oilers hit 3 posts. They had opportunities to score. But the biggest thing to me is, once again, you spot them 3 goals in the first period, and now you got to chase a game. And if you're in the playoffs, you can't chase a game because, hey, you're basically in the final 8. And these teams are the elite teams in the NHL, and you can't spot teams 3 goals.
No.
It doesn't matter to me whether you buried your chance and whatever. Like, you need to show up, and you got to show up right from the start, and you need to play the game a playoff game. That means limiting turnovers, and it can be as cliche as you want this to be, but when I get to the blue line and I got nothing, I want to put it in a soft area so that their defenseman has to go get the puck, and then I want one of my forwards to forecheck, and I want him to run the defenseman. Because everything that you do is a drop in the bucket to ultimate success. And if you're going to wear out their defensemen, and they don't have, like, their defensemen are big, outside of Hughes, they're big and they're slow. So get pucks in behind them, attack their heels, force them to turn, force them to make plays. Because there was one shift that I watched Janmark relentlessly hound Zadorov. Zadorov tried to shake him, but what happened? Turnover. Because if you have the ability to force those guys, they will turn over pucks. So you need to show up. End of story.
And they didn't. And you can't, and we mentioned it already, you can't leave Brock Besser alone in front of your net twice in one period for like 10 seconds each time. The officiating, listen, the officiating wasn't great. He hated those 2 cross checks. I hated the Zadorov that was even a penalty. Like, that wasn't a penalty at all. Like, that was a great hit by Zadorov. And then, to give it to Perry, no one on the bench did anything. Like, I think almost in that situation was like one ref was like, hey, listen, that probably wasn't a penalty. Like, can we give him a bench minor to even it out? Like, the officiating wasn't great. And the standard changed throughout the game for what was a cross check and what wasn't. Even that late cross check on Evander Kane, I was like, wasn't really, there's a lot worse cross checks than that happened that they didn't call. But this was in no way an officials blowing the game and screwing the Oilers. Did that 4th goal cost them? Yeah, it did. And was it off of a bad penalty? Yeah, it was. But as you said, Belzy, you spotted them 3 goals in the first period, and 2 of them at least were off huge mistakes that you were responsible for. Not anything that Vancouver did or did really well. It was just mistakes that you made, turnovers that you made. So, yeah, it's tough. I'm getting a lot of flack in the nasty chat about being a homer. Yeah, I'll be a homer sometimes. Someone has to do it. I'll do it. And I'll support the goaltending because no one else does. So I will. Yeah, I mean, it's and maybe, like, guys, let's jump into that now because people are going to want to talk about it. Do you guys start Calvin Pickard in game number 4?
Go for it, Belzy.
I don't know because I if you're management, do you really trust Calvin Pickard to carry your team to victory? That's going to be the biggest question, and I don't know. And I wish I could give you a better answer, Cass, but, like, I'm so torn on it. Yeah. Because over the course of the season, Skinner's earned the right to be the number 1 goaltender. But in this Vancouver series, I don't think he's been the greatest. Yep. But it's the same thing we talked about last time with Sheilov. Well, would you have guessed that he would have been in this game based on his performance prior to that? So you're probably going to go back with Skinner. I'm not saying that he's been great. I'm just saying you're probably going to go back with him because he's kind of earned it over the course of the season. And so I know that Oiler fans are going to be pissed about that, but I mean, you either go down 3-1 or it's 2-2, and Skinner has the ability to steal a game. Yeah. Trick question, though. He's got to elevate his game. Trick question. The answer should have been Jack Campbell. He's hey, third string goalies are all the rage right now, right? So bring them up, put them in. Yeah. I think you got to start. You have to start Skinner again. Again, people are going to lose it on me for saying that, but I think you have to.
I think you have to. I think he has earned it, and I think you have to. But people are going to not like that. They're not going to like that one bit.
Cass, I think he starts. I think you go back. He's your number one. Sub 800 save percentage. Like, it's just, it's been brutal. Or pardon, save percentage in this series, not good enough for sure. But tonight, I did not like. You needed 1 or 2 saves from him.
100%.
And then Shelov's provided it. So, I think he does get the start. Do I love it? No, but he needs to pick his game up. He's among many, because I thought there were some passengers tonight.
There's definitely some passengers tonight. It's just, you're in a tough situation, because at the end of the day, you put yourself into this. And if you come out, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Vancouver, because I thought Vancouver played a really good road game today.
Yeah.
But the Oilers have the ability to play better than that.
Yeah.
The second and third period, you carried the play. You limited the amount of shots that they had. It all comes down to how you decide to come out. And this is something that we've seen over the last, 5 years, 7 years. Like, they have these highs and these lows, and they ride the wave way too much. And in the playoffs, you need to be even keeled, but you need to be going, because you look at the teams that are left. Colorado, they don't have an off switch. Dallas doesn't have an off switch. Florida doesn't have an off switch. The Rangers don't have an off switch. So there's no time. You cannot take a shift off. And unfortunately, right now, the Oilers consistently take shifts and sometimes periods off, and sometimes they don't start the way that they're supposed to.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some texts. A lot coming in right now. 780-218-9999. I will also add in the Oilers had 3 posts tonight. The Canucks, a huge post into the empty, or off the empty net, and that helped get the Oilers that third goal, but ultimately doesn't matter at the end of the night. All right, let's get to the text line. I saw this one from Greg. Greg texts and says, "Hey, Tommy, Cass, and Belsey, have the Oilers played even their B game yet this series? Not sure what is up their butts, but it's long overdue. They wake the hell up, or they are teeing them up on Friday. Also, is the coach in his own head loading up McDryde, and again seems to neuter, thanks, Julia, neuter the rest of the quote-unquote team. And don't get me going on playoff Skinner. Thanks again, boys. Appreciate the avenue to vent." Cass, do you want to look at that? They haven't brought it more than their B game, as Greg pointed out. What's up their butt, as Greg says. And then Knobloch and some of his decision-making in this series in particular. What do you think?
Yeah, well, some of the decision-making, I think Knobloch's hand has been forced slightly. I think the Adam Henrique injury, that's a tough one. Right now, that's a tough one, because it kind of forces you a little bit to where they had to play McDavid and Draisaitl together, because you're trying to figure out what other options. And as we talked about in the pregame show, like lines 2, 3, and 4, it's like they had to be even or better. And then that top line has to be your top line, and they have to dominate. So your hand was a little bit forced on some of that. What's up their butts? I don't know. Maybe they need an enema. Get whatever's there, like just get it out. Okay. So let's deal with that. We've seen flashes of their game. Of that. They haven't played a complete game over that B level yet this series. Like, we haven't seen an A game where from start to finish, they have been great. And Belsey mentioned it. Too often there have been periods off this series. Every game, there's been like at least one period where it's like, yeah, they didn't look very good that period. And, maybe the next two, like today, second period, they're all right. Third period, they're all right. But it wasn't a complete game. They haven't managed to pull that together. And as a group, as a unit, as a team, they have to.
Belsey, go for it.
Yeah, I just, when you get chasing the game, that puts your star players out there more often, and it puts them in harm's way. And I keep harping on this, because I just really don't like watching Draisaitl, McDavid, Hyman, Kane, the guys that are taking that kind of punishment. Because if you consistently take this kind of punishment because you don't want to show up in the first period, well, your stars might not have some juice down the road. Like, the amount of times that I watch Draisaitl just take an absolute vicious hit.
JT Miller is
cross-checking. I'm like, it wears on you. It wears on your body, and you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball. If you show up and you get the lead, well, maybe you have the ability to play some of these other guys and get people kind of feeling it, and they can get themselves into the series. And then maybe it turns into a snowball effect where, okay, we got some momentum and other guys are starting to feel it. Holloway was actually pretty good today.
Yep.
I didn't mind his game at all. So you want to see those guys on the ice. You just got to stop taking those shifts off and spotting teams' leads, because it just puts a tremendous amount of pressure on your star players, and they are taking punishment.
Yeah. And kudos to Vancouver for doing that. I mean, and JT Miller, you know, I would say Zadorov and JT Miller have been the two best Vancouver Canucks so far. Zadorov has been absolutely punishing to play against, and JT Miller as well. Both offensively, he's done well, and he has been absolutely vicious to play against. Which you know, he's a great player. He plays great offensively and has the ability to play with that edge, and he's doing it well. And Edmonton hasn't quite responded in kind. Now, I thought earlier in the series, and I said this, and we had talked about it, Tommy, and Belzy, maybe you can jump in and comment here, because we had some people that had messaged in that say they didn't think the Oilers were being physical enough. And I didn't necessarily agree at the time, but that's starting to, the idea is growing on me maybe a little bit. And then I'm like, okay, Vancouver has continued to push, and it's like, well, yeah, when you're scoring on the power play, when you're punishing teams like you did against LA, yeah, it doesn't matter as much. But right now, it's like, well, you haven't made life nearly as difficult on the Petterssons and the Bessers and the JT Millers and the Quinn Hughes as you've had made against you. And some of that is on your bottom guys, that when they are out there against them, they haven't done it. They haven't been as physical. They haven't been as nasty. Now, on occasion, they've gotten in there. It's not like those guys haven't been touched, but they haven't made it as difficult to play against as it has been. Now, Belzy, part of that could be because they've been chasing in these games and they've had to keep rolling their stars out there, where for Vancouver, it's like, well, you can mix and match a little bit more. You're controlling. You're in a position where you don't need another goal. So you can have guys that are just out there to play defense and to play physical, not worried about scoring another goal as much, where Edmonton's like, well, we have to score to win. So I don't know. You guys feel free to run with it. That's kind of a jumble of thoughts, but
yeah, no, your points are good. I just, once again, I look at the way that the whole series is gone, and I actually text Tommy after, I think it was game 2, right?
Yep.
And I said, they're kind of getting pushed around. Yep. You could just see something switch where it's not necessarily always just a punishing hit, but there's a cross check.
Yeah.
There's
always something.
There's always something.
Yeah.
Like today, Dakota Joshua was just basically surfing above McDavid, and every single time McDavid got close, he kind of just pushed him or punched him in the chest. And it's like, it's little things that are just wearing on these guys, and you want to see the same thing happen. And guys aren't playing their best hockey. We've talked about it, and we've expressed that. And how do you get yourself going? Well, you have to find a way to contribute at some point. Okay, so Perry today, for example, he goes hard to the net multiple times. He's trying to create scrums. He's trying to get himself back into the series so he can be a factor. Darnell Nurse, well, you're not playing your best hockey. Dakota Joshua's taking shots at you. He's chirping you. He's saying all this stuff. And please tell me, at what point have you even breathed on a guy yet?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Cass.
Well, I was just going to say, Dustin Nielsen is in on the Nasty Chat, which I think is a fair thing to talk about. He says, can we talk about how McLeod has 0 points in the playoffs, I'm assuming you meant to say looking soft, and looks scared to be on the ice in this series? Dusty.
You know what's funny is you said something very similar to me while we were watching the game. You said, does McLeod look afraid?
There was one particular shift. There was a quick break. Puck gets chipped out of the zone. Fogel races down the right-hand side of the ice, goes and gets it. McLeod, who's arguably one of the fastest guys on the ice, maybe second or third, has the ability to go basically skate as fast as he can to the far post. Probably a bang-bang play. It's in the net. It's 2-on-1. What does he do? He slows up at the red line. He allows another player, I think it was one of the defensemen, to go past him, and he tries to eye up, and they actually don't get a chance. And I looked at Tom, and I'm like, is that real? This is the playoffs, man. You're going to get touched.
No, yeah.
So you might as well try to get to the net, and you might as well try to score, because either way, you're going to get touched.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, once again, Ryan McLeod, I don't think anybody's asking you to put a guy in the 15th row of the building, but just run into the guy. Like, try to slow them down.
Just be engaged.
Just be engaged.
Just be engaged.
And that's the frustrating part. And I think this is why I consistently go back to this point, because you got guys that are on the ice a lot, and you got guys that are putting their heart and soul into it, and then you have other guys that are just kind of, I don't know if I really want to dip my toe into it, or I might just dip my toe into it as opposed to jumping in,
head first.
my whole body head first. Like, you either need to get on or you need to get off.
Yeah,
you're in or you're in the way.
So how do you think they go about trying to raise that battle level, not just of Ryan McLeod, but team as a whole outside of that first line? Like, how do they raise that intensity up?
Well, that's a great question, Cass, and I honestly don't know. I think it's got to be I think somebody's got to kind of grab the bull by the horns and say, hey, I'm going to be the physical leader. And maybe that drags other people into the fight. And unfortunately, you can't allow Draisaitl, you can't allow Hyman, you can't allow McDavid to be your physical leaders. You need other guys to say, you know what, I'm going to drag you guys into the fight. And that's the only way that you'll improve that battle level, because you got to find ways to contribute in the playoffs, and everybody's got to do it, whether you're fourth liner or your first liner. Every single year, we've always talked about, that fourth liner or that third liner, they're the difference in the series. You think about 5-6 years ago when it was Calgary versus Vancouver. Well, who was the difference maker in that series? Oh, his name was Michael Ferland. Is he a first liner? No, he's not. But all he did was chip pucks in, go hit guys, get to the hard areas, get in people's faces, and he made life a living hell for the Vancouver Canucks. And right now, if you look at this series, well, Zadorov, he's your fifth or sixth defenseman. He's making it a living hell for the Oilers forwards.
Yep.
JT Miller is making a living hell for the Oilers forwards. They're doing everything in their power to slow these guys down, and you can see it starting to wear, because Connor doesn't usually talk to the ref that much. He's usually just stone-faced. I'm just going to go. But now I see him. He's talking to the ref. He's talking to the ref. He's talking to the ref. Well, it's starting to wear on him. It's pretty hard not to.
I'm going to throw something at both of you. We know that it got heated after the loss in Game 1 in the locker room. Obviously very passionate. They're mad, emotional, all that stuff. Is there some yelling going on in that locker room after that game tonight? What do you guys think? And is that a good thing? Cass?
Ooh, maybe. I mean, I was fired up at the end of it. I was first thought in my head, like when the Zadorov cross check happened right at the end there on McDavid, I was just like, I would, part of me was like, hop the boards and take a 3-game suspension. Somebody, please, like Perry, just grab him, take a 3-game suspension. I don't care if you lose the fight. Whatever. Take the automatic 1-game suspension. I guess if you hop the boards, it'd be more than one. But I was just like, somebody do something. Somebody spear somebody. Someone go the Alex Pietrangelo route, because you're only going to get 1 game if you overhand axe chop somebody. Maybe that's the route you gotta go. I'm not saying they actually should do that, by the way. Not advocating for that in reality, but part of me thought, like, what if you had one of your guys just 2-hand JT Miller on the wrist, just overhead axe chop, and see if you only get 1 game. But you don't want to take a 5-minute penalty. That's not ideal. But yeah, I mean, there probably some raised emotions in the room. I don't know if it outright yelling. But I'm hoping the guys in the leadership group are on people to be like, hey, we can't make those mistakes. We can't have these let-ups. What the anger that you're feeling at the end of the game, let's feel that at the beginning of the game and come into a game feeling that, and coming out to be like, no, you know what? We are going to put these guys through the wall when we can. We are going to be the meaner team. We're going to be the tougher team. We're going to be the harder team, because they haven't been so far.
Yeah, I completely agree, Cass. At the end of the game there, when McDavid takes those shots, those simultaneous shots, I'm sitting there saying, like, man, oh man, that's not good, because what happens if your star is legitimately hurt? The way that he's getting cross-checked and he's getting folded in half, and I'm actually just seeing it right now on TV, like, it's bad.
It's bad.
Yeah. It's bad. And not one guy, like, he gets cross-checked right in the face. And there's a couple pushes back and forth, but, like, Like, come on.
Yep.
He's the best player in the world.
Yep.
He gets buried from behind and cross-checked in the face, and we're not going to do anything.
Well, the guys on the ice have also been on the ice for like 35 minutes at that point. Like,
I know, and I'm just
which is
at this point because it's very frustrating to watch that because you don't want your star player in that particular position. But hey, kudos to the Vancouver Canucks.
Oh yeah,
he's doing it.
They keep doing it.
And
They keep getting away with it, and they're making life miserable. And they're up. So good for them.
All right, let's get to some text here. 780-218-9999. Tom Gazzola, Sean Bell, Matt Kassian with you. The Oilers fall 4-3 in Game 3, down 2-1 in the series to the Vancouver Canucks. A lot of people pretty pissed off about that outcome, obviously, and then the process in which that outcome came to fruition. Let's go to Eddie. Eddie texts me directly, says, not Skinner's fault. Got to reset the lines. Had 4 lines humming in the first round. Henrique injury is an issue, and yes, but you got to adjust. Messed up a good thing. Let's go to a few more here. JB says, I wanted to get what the EST crew thinks about the lack of depth scoring, how every coach has to resort to throwing 97 and 29 together. The Fogle giveaway was a gut punch when you think what the Oilers could have had if they moved some salary. I like Fogle, but he needs to use his body to make things hard on the opposition if he isn't bringing any offense. That's from JB. I'll just say one thing about McDavid and Draisaitl and stacking them up. If Pittsburgh did it with Malkin and Crosby, Kane and Taves in Chicago, all your big guns, when you need goals, you're stacking them up. I understand the mindset of you need those guys driving their own lines, but you're not going to not put those two together, right? Like, you need goals. You put the two of the best players in the world together. But I understand, like, in a perfect world, they're rolling 4 lines. Every line can chip in with offense. Every line is sound defensively. They don't make boneheaded reads in their own zone. Like, McDavid and Draisaitl both had a bad read on one of those goals. I think it was the second.
It was a set play.
It was the set play. But Draisaitl's looking around. And then McDavid and the D-man, I think it might have been Ekholm, follow into the corner.
They both double down. They go after the same player.
Busted coverage.
It's busted coverage, and they allow Besser to kind of roll into the soft area of the ice. Draisaitl doesn't stretch his zone, doesn't help out. He's actually cheating for offense, and it goes in the net. And that's tough. So I think there's just lots of pieces. Here's another clip right now where guys are just getting in, into the equipment, and it's hard. But going back to the goals and the way that they're playing, it's just, there's always a saying of don't give up anything for free. And unfortunately right now the Oilers are giving up things for free.
Yeah.
Yep. And even during the regular season, when they lost hockey games, that's generally what happened. It's just here you go. I mean, they were the two guys from that one movie. I don't know if we're allowed to directly name things. Yeah, we can say Dumb and Dumber, just standing at the door, just here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go. Like, that's, you lose hockey games when you do that. You run out of money real quick, right? Like, it's not a recipe for success.
No.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, Cass. Couldn't agree more.
All right, we're going to go inside the locker room and hear from Fogle and Draisaitl. They spoke. I think we're going to start. Let's start with Draisaitl. Trev, are they by themselves or are they at the podium?
Yeah, no, these are they're by themselves for these.
Okay, let's go to Draisaitl, and I want to get Cass's and Belzy's thoughts on what these guys say and what we hear from Draisaitl first. Let's go to that.
Come out of this thinking that you probably deserve better? Or?
Yeah, probably. Thought we were the better team for the most part. And, in my eyes, should have resulted in a win, but that's not the way hockey works sometimes. So, yeah, just regroup and get ready for Game 4.
You obviously don't score 5-on-5. You generate a lot, though. What Warren said, you need more guys in front, second, third opportunities. So, where does that start?
Yeah, right there. I think we're creating enough looks, but obviously they're not falling right now, or we're not doing a good enough job of, being hard in front and, banging them home.
What do you make of that first period, the 3 goals they got during that stretch? When you look back at it, what do you think caused it?
Yeah, I mean, a couple nice plays by them, and they capitalize on their chances.
What are they doing? What are they doing maybe through the middle of the ice, or just in terms of trying to when they were able to hold you guys a little bit back in the first two periods, and then what changed, do you think?
Well, I don't know. They held us back in the second, maybe in the first a little bit, but certainly not in the second and the third. But, you know, they defended well. They're a good defending team, and we got to find ways to, you know, get inside and capitalize.
You guys hit, I think, 4 or 5 goal posts tonight. You generated the chances. How much of that is bearing down, or how much of that is just good goaltending or luck?
Well, post is not good goaltending, but yeah, we can certainly do a better job of bearing down and, you know, like I said, capitalizing on our looks.
When in the regular season, when you kind of get goalied, you know, you play the next team another night and you just move on. In the playoffs, you're going to see this guy again. Do you guys need to kind of go to school on this guy a little bit?
I don't think so. I think we got enough guys in here that can put the puck past him. Shown it so far. He's obviously playing well. Made some big stops for them, but yeah, we just gotta, you know, be a little cleaner and you know, look to bear down a little bit more.
Okay, that was Leon Draisaitl. Right off the top, he said he thought that they were the better team. I looked at Belsey right away. Cass, did you catch that? Do you?
Yeah, I caught that.
I know some people think that, but maybe I'm not so sold on that.
Well, I think they were the better team in the last 40 minutes. They weren't the better team through the first 20. So, like, did they generate enough chances to score enough goals to catch Vancouver and pass them? Yeah, they did, but they didn't put the puck in the net. So they weren't the best one. The one that caught me was the and I'll paraphrase here because I can't remember exactly the verbiage he used, but the battling in front of the net to generate those second chances. Got to do that a little bit more.
Without question. I mean, the one goal that they could have scored, I think Derek Ryan's stick got held
by Shelovs,
Shelovs. But I mean, should that one have gone in? Probably. You know,
bearing down, man. That's part of it,
just
right?
Being hungry around the net. Once again, I understand the stick got held, but before it got held, you had an opportunity to get the puck in the net. There's pucks that were laying around. You have opportunity. It is what it is. And yeah, you just hope that they're a little bit more determined next game, because he's going to give you opportunities to score and you have to capitalize it. This is not a maybe you'll get the next one. You have to capitalize on it, because once again, in the playoffs, everything matters.
Okay, let's go into the locker room one more time. Let's hear from Warren Fogle this time.
Tonight in some posts, overall, what do you think the difference was there?
Obviously, turn over the pucks. I should know better. Can't beat ourselves there. And unfortunately, I did that, put our team in a bad spot, and then we were kind of chasing the game. But I thought we created a lot of looks. Power play got us some goals, but obviously can't do that.
Would you say he's kind of an unknown goalie, relatively speaking? What have you kind of found out about the type of goaltender he is through this start of this series, anyways?
Yeah, he seems to be making the first stop there. I think we need to get more bodies to the net to try to get those second and third efforts. And by doing that, you got to have more guys at the net.
Talked to you this morning about a lot of things that depth guys do, even if they're not scoring goals. A lot of the depth guys played like 7-8 minutes the last couple of nights. Is that, do you need to play more to contribute?
At the end of the day, everyone has a role, and you got to you got to be the best of your role, whether how many minutes that is. And at the end of the day, it's about winning. And coach can put out there who he thinks gives them the best chance to win. And but everyone here understands their role, and everyone's got to execute.
Warren, do you think there's just too much from everyone shooting themselves in the foot right now?
I don't know about that. I think at the end of the day, they're beating us on the 5-on-5 scoring, right? That seems to be the difference there. The special teams, usually this time of year, special teams is the difference. But they have a good power play and good PK too. So they're scoring 5-on-5 goals, and we're not scoring as many.
Controlled a lot of the play in the last 40 minutes there. Not the result you want, obviously, but is there something positive to take away from that last 40?
Yeah, I think when we, pushing pace, playing fast, that's kind of our game, and you got to give credit to them too. they played a good shutdown for the last bit too, and they know their goalie made some good saves.
When they're giving you, not giving you, when you're out shooting them in the last 40 minutes that much, is there some score effect there? Are you sort of suggesting they're sitting back and waiting for you to keep coming, or is that just you guys dominating them?
Obviously when you're down, you're pressing a bit harder, and we got a lot of belief in this room, and guys were close on their chances, and you got to give credit to their goalie. He made some big saves.
All right, that was Warren Fogle. Couple things that I caught right away was he said, get to the front of the net, get the rebounds, create those opportunities, crash the net. Yes. And then the 5-on-5. The 5-on-5. What's not happening 5-on-5 outside of them not winning the scoring battle? What are they doing 5-on-5 that's leading to them chasing these games? Belsey, if you want to crack at that first.
I'll be very quick with it. They're just being far too perimeter.
Weird. It's like I've said that before. It's like we've talked about that before. Yeah, they're too perimeter when they're not playing well, and they're not generating enough pressure from a forecheck standpoint. When the Oilers are playing well, and we talked about this all year, Tommy, it's my quickest barometer for how they're playing in a game is how well they are pressuring offensively. So how much are they turning over pucks off the forecheck? How well are they battling on the forecheck to pressure these teams? Usually a pretty good barometer. We haven't seen a ton of that. We've seen too many turnovers and too much on the perimeter.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. I mean, the forecheck, against the Vancouver Canucks could be, a difference maker because the fact that, Zadorov's not fleet of foot, Ian Cole's not fleet of foot, Tyler Myers is not fleet of foot.
Nope.
If you get pucks behind them, you attack their heels, all of a sudden you might get a few more opportunities. Like, Cass, answer this question. Do you think that this Vancouver defense is that much better than the Flames defense from a couple years ago when, Draisaitl, Kane, and McDavid went supernova on them?
No,
I don't think it's that much better.
No,
so
maybe slightly,
marginally,
because but just
Hughes,
because
right?
Just because of Hughes.
Yeah, but outside of that, it's more or less the same thing. So what's the difference? Why is it now all of a sudden I don't want to attack Zadorov? Like, McDavid had that guy on roller skates, and now all of a sudden this guy's like the difference maker. So to me, it's just like they're not getting on the forecheck, they're not creating a ton of pressure on these guys, and they're not turning pucks over when they really should be, and that should be how they generate their 5-on-5 opportunities.
I got nothing to add, Tommy. I got nothing to add. I said my bit already.
Well, that's how good that
is beautiful.
diatribe was by Belsey.
Yeah.
Okay, 780-218-9999. Keep those texts coming in. I'm going to get to more of them. One thing I want to bring up really quickly for both guys, we'll start with Cass, is PK. We're talking about the 5-on-5. Belsey, you did a good job summing that up, obviously. Cass didn't have to add anything because it was so good. Such a great answer. But on the PK, it's given up 3 in the last 2 games after being perfect up until game 2 of this series. One thing that Belsey said to me after they scored their first goal, the Canucks did, on the power play, was ask Cass about Nugent Hopkins' route on the Canucks' first goal, because Belsey was noticing how the Oilers' PK, it's a little bit different than what we've seen during the season, right?
No, it's more or less the same. I felt like the route was wrong. Long story short, it ends up going back up to Besser. And when it comes to that tee or that wipe or whatever you want to call it, the middle guy, yeah. So they're always pushing from the inside out. And so when it's from the dot lanes, if you use the dot lanes as a guide, you're pushing inside out. If the puck comes back to the middle of the ice, you generally speaking want that middle PKer to come out and get in the lane. But on that goal, Nuge almost looked like he was trying to cheat for the cross-ice pass, which would have been a one-timer to Pettersson, and allowed Besser to kind of walk right down Main Street, shoot the puck, and then all of a sudden it gets tipped.
Yep.
Right? Like, is this just these guys are now trying to cheat because they're worried about the the Vancouver power play, or is there something just off in what they're trying to do and execute?
I want to add one last thing, because when we were talking about the PK and the routes they're taking and being off, I said to you, it just feels like Vancouver has so much room to work with. And maybe that's part of it. But, Cass, I really want to hear your thoughts. And I'm glad, Belzy, you brought that up when we were watching the game earlier.
Yeah. Well, 2 points on that sequence as a whole, actually. So I didn't like it would have been semi-play right before it where I didn't like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins' route where he puts his stick to the middle of the ice, allows a pass up to Besser from that flank side, where I thought, and generally with the routes, a lot of times, and say all we want, and we could, Belzy, both share stories about Kevin Constantine. Say what you want about the guy, but he was good at structuring a penalty kill. And one of the big things, and I've said this before, is one of the most important things you can do is to try to push the puck down the wall, because you don't score very many goals from the corner of the ice, unless you're Leon Draisaitl. But very rare that players, or less rare, your chances of scoring percentage-wise is lower from that. Usually the puck moves through that top middle of the ice before most goals. Again, so I didn't like his route there because he allowed a puck through, didn't force it down the wall. And then the secondary to the actual goal-scoring play, he's taken away that one-timer. But you have to trust your goalie with that one-timer. Like from that move from the goalie, because it's not a complete cross ice at that instance. Like it's not cross crease backdoor one timer. Like he's moving from here to here from a face standpoint. If you can see me, I'm just turning my body and push. Like the push is a lot less. It's a less of a push that he has to make. And for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, I would much rather have his route be directly in that lane, because especially since the play is coming from the Oilers' right wing side. It starts from Pettersson in that corner, and you have players coming back to the front of the net. Like if you look at that, you have a 3-on-2 in front of the Oilers' net right now with Edmonton advantage 3-on-2 because your guys filtered back to the net in a way that was fine. If the puck goes out on that flank to the one-timer on the Oilers' left wing, well, your defenseman who's net front, and I believe it was Matthias Ekholm in that instance. He's halfway there already because he's in a fronting position that's one step and he can try to get in the lane, and your goalie should be over. There shouldn't be much of a screen. So I don't like that route, Belzy. Now, is that a coaching thing or was it a read in the play? Hard to say because we're not sitting in on those PK meetings, but I didn't like that either.
Yeah, I thought there was the way that they were forcing, like in that first goal, it almost seems like they're collapsing, but at the same time, the rotation of the top two forwards to me was a little bit slow and lacked urgency. Right, like a lot of times, and going back to Kevin Constantine, that he would talk about the handedness of the players and how to attack that and where your sticks were supposed to be. But the stop and starts are also really important, and making sure that if I do attack inside out and I push, well, I want to put my stick to the middle of the ice so that I'm taking away any passes that are supposed to be coming back up top, force them to the outside, and then we can continue doing our push. Unfortunately, the sticks weren't in the right areas. Pucks come back up, and now you're sitting there saying, okay, well, I'm going to cheat for Pettersson's one-timer. Well, you're right. A couple things happen with that is that Ekholm's now coming out to try to block that, and the way that now goaltending coaches and defensemen work it is that Ekholm is blocking anything on the back half. So middle to the back half of the net, which allows Skinner to now play anything short side. Gives you a better opportunity to potentially stop that puck. So for me, Nuge, you got to come straight out in that lane, try to block the shot or deter him from shooting the puck, allow him to go across, push, and then have your inside forward now take away any of those seam passes. I didn't like the way that they were angling. I didn't like the way that they were forcing today. I just thought the routes were bad, and I obviously wanted to talk to you about that. Yeah,
can we go? Because I kind of want to jump because it actually factors in on the second Vancouver power play goal as well a little bit. If we look at the Lindholm goal, where I've always hated. And Belzy, I don't know from a coaching standpoint how you would feel about it, but I've always hated when teams just automatically on the penalty killing side collapse to the bumper player, because I'm like, he's facing Vancouver's net up ice. his backhand is towards your net. Why are you worried about this guy? And just like, oh, we have to stop him. Like, he's the biggest threat, because he's not the biggest threat. And he ends up being the one that scores a goal, because you do a little bit of a chasing spinning route where you do like too many TV turns, and then you're a little bit out of position. And I think also on that play, I think you're worried about the backside one-timer. So for Matthias Ekholm, where he's caught, I think, a little bit too close to his own crease, probably should be one step forward where he can actually get a stick on that and engage Lindholm while he's skating around with his freaking skate on a puck and no one touches him. But I think the routes at the beginning of that from the top forwards, again, created that situation where you allowed the bumper play cleanly, and you're like, oh my goodness, the bumper guy. It's like, well, he's not scoring his backhand from there. Why are you taking yourself out of your lane with a turn that now you're having to reestablish, try to regain that lane, and you're really out of position to make any kind of a push or a force. And it just, to me, opens up the middle of the ice because you're just spinning circles in there. So yeah, penalty kill standpoint, certainly something that got to get cleaned up.
Couldn't agree more.
All right, we do have Chris Knobloch. Let's hear from the head coach and what he had to say following his team's 4-3 loss in Game 3.
45 shots on goal tonight and 3 goals. Do you attribute more of that to Artur Silovs or to your shooters?
Well, I think he made some big saves. I also know that I thought we had him beat 3 or 4 times with goalposts, a couple pucks laying in the crease, with DR just missing that one. And then the Corey Perry, in my opinion, I thought it was in, but can't prove it. So, I thought we had him beat there. So I think, yes, he did make some save, but I think we were just very close to scoring a few more tonight.
Do you feel like you need more saves out of your goaltender tonight and in this series?
Yes, we need more saves. Tonight, obviously I felt like that with the picks going in the third period. But, we defense and along with goaltending, it's very important to winning hockey games, especially in the long term. And, it's got to be better.
Skinner generally is, handles the pressure well and comes out and talks, those sorts of things. Didn't tonight. What's your sense on how he's dealing with the pressure? It doesn't get any greater than it is here in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I think, tonight's one that he'd like to have back. And, we'll see what he's got in the future, whether that's Game 4 or Game 5 or whatever it is. But we'll be seeing Stu again. You have no doubt that he'll respond and play well.
Hey, Chris, over here. It's been 2 games in a row where your team has controlled a lot of the play. Is there anything positive you can take out of that 40 minutes because you guys seem to control a lot of tonight?
Yeah, eventually the pucks are going to start going in a little more. Tonight, with having 3, it's probably most nights is enough to win, especially in during the playoffs. And you look at the amount of opportunities we have. We just have to be persistent and continue to push. I feel that we'll get some more breaks.
Hi, Chris. Just to go back to Skinner, are you committing to start him in Game 4?
Oh no, I'm not committing to that or making a decision right now. Obviously, it's very emotional after a loss. We'll get together tomorrow as a staff and we'll make that decision.
Is there any injury concern with the goaltender, Skinner?
No, there's no injuries.
Okay. I just wonder, you mentioned before the game that there could have been consideration at some point in the game to move Draisaitl to center. You didn't do that. Why? What went into that decision to keep him with McDavid?
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with we were chasing. We needed goals, and that line together has been creating so much offense. And overall, the other lines have been playing pretty well too. Not maybe scoring, but controlling play. And I think that's very important. Is are you creating the chances? As long as you're creating the chances, eventually they're going to go in. So that's why we continue to go with the lines as they were.
Chris, you mentioned, they're not scoring, they're creating, but at some point you need offense from guys not on your top line. Is there any other combinations you've seen? We saw Fogle and Holloway switch.
and then they were together on a line. Is there a combination that you like better in your bottom three lines that you might want to ensure starts the next game?
Overall tonight, you look at our lineup and how we played, and yes, we'd like some more goals, but just moving guys around doesn't necessarily generate goals. You move around guys, and are they creating chemistry? Are they breaking out? Are they sustaining offensive zone pressure? You look at the last two games. I think we've been doing that. I just want to be impatient on pulling the plug on. I see us doing a lot of good things. We are generating some offense. It's just not leading up to the goals. But overall, our 5-on-5 play, I think, is pretty good.
You had 2 goals directly off of, unable to clear giveaway turnovers in this game. You didn't give up a lot, but you had kind of 2 crucial mistakes that led directly to goals. Frustrating at a time like this, and how do you eliminate that? What did you think of your puck management overall for me?
Overall, I think it was great. I think it cost us in a couple situations, but it'd be ridiculous to think that you're going to play 60 minutes of hockey without turning the puck over. And yes, we got a couple goals against because of those turnovers, but overall, I thought it was pretty good.
Connor and Leon played almost 30 minutes tonight. Can you sustain that type of workload over the course of the series, or are you going to have to be cognizant of scaling their minutes down?
Yeah, no, we can't play them 30 minutes every night. It just seemed like every time we had a whistle, they'd been sitting on the bench for a while, and let's go. They were, as tired as they were still creating offense and getting some chances. And, our best players have to be our best players, and they have been. And as a coach, you just want to give them that opportunity. And, they've been doing well, but yes, no, we can't be pushing them that much.
All right, that was Chris Knobloch. So he says that he will not declare his goaltender for Game 4, but says we are going to see Stuart Skinner. Also acknowledge that he needs more saves from his goaltender. Talking about the rationale about playing Leon and Connor up to half the game, and that tells me that they need some more from the depth guys, obviously. Cass, as we look ahead to Game 4, anything there stood out to you, or what do you want to hit on that the Oilers need to do for Game 4? Because you and Bells are going to bounce after this.
Yeah, well, I love the answer first from Knobloch on the yes answer to we need more saves, because, yeah, anytime you lose a game, you need more saves. I mean, you need more saves because you got more goals scored on you than you scored. So, yeah, you need more saves. Kind of you need them. Looking ahead. I mean, hey guys, I want them to carry the anger and the frustration. I don't want them to squeeze the sticks because of it or do something foolish because of it, but I want to see that intensity and that emotion right from the drop of the puck. Because they were the better team, maybe deserved a better fate with the amount of offense they almost produced in the last 40 minutes of that hockey game. But let's have a full 60 of that. Let's have a full 60. Let's see the Oilers A game for a full 60. Let's see them come out and play with some nastiness. Let's see them be the ones that are the aggressors from a physicality standpoint. And then let's see what happens. That's what I want to see, guys.
Belzy?
Yeah, that's well said, Cass. I think, going into the next game, you got to limit the turnovers. You can't have 15, especially the ones that lead to grade A scoring chances. I think you have the opportunity to be a little bit cleaner in the D zone. Case in point, the goal that Besser scores, where he basically rolls into soft ice. I just think there could be some more communication, not cheat for offense, and be comfortable winning that 1-0 game, that 2-1 game. Stuff that we have seen from the Oilers in the past, but for whatever odd reason right now, we're not necessarily seeing that because it's because we're chasing at the end of the day. So be cleaner in the defensive zone, limit the turnovers. If you have to play a boring game, you got to play a boring game. It is what it is. And then to touch on what you said, Cass, bring that nastiness, bring that physicality, and make Besser feel it. Make Hughes feel it. Make Pedersen feel it. Make these guys have to endure the same punishment that Vancouver is now dishing out to your star players.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be a 7-game series, and you want to make sure that you're doing everything in your power to be ahead at the end of the day.
boys, I want to ask you really quickly. It came in from Kyle. Do we expect any discipline for the cross-check at the end of the game? Cass?
Vinny Desharnais needs to lumberjack JT Miller.
Darnell Nurse needs to hit somebody and hit somebody often. And his name is Brock Besser because he's killing people right now. He is doing very well in this series.
Yeah.
I just need to see guys just start to, hey, not everybody's going to have it all the time. I get it. There's different factors, different circumstances. I get all that stuff. But at the end of the day, find a way to make yourself a factor in the series.
Yep.
And it might just be by going to the net and snowing the goaltender and accidentally on purpose falling on him. I don't care what you have to do, but do something.
You greasy play, you guys. Wow, I actually really appreciate and like that. So yeah, it's so greasy, but
you know what they need, Belzy? They need to start a big scrum, and you need to gooseneck somebody. I don't know if you remember what that is, but it's where you hold the blade of your stick, like right at the but you can do it. So you just have just the tip sticking out right here, and you just go like you're gonna put your hand on a guy's collarbone and just give it to him. But you know what? That's old school.
Hey,
hockey.
that's old school. You got to get to the old duck bill. And I can't. I don't know why I'm defending myself. Poke you in the
face. Tricks of the trade, boys. Fantastic work, Belzy. Thank you for hanging out on the pre and post game show. Cass, fantastic as always, my friend. Get some rest, fellas. We will do this again on Tuesday for game number 4. Good job, boys.
Thank you.
There you go. There's Sean Bell and Matt Kassian. Double whammy. We get both guys analyzing the game. Keep those texts coming in. 780-218-9999. We want to hear from you. I've got a bunch of texts that I saw that I want to get to. Let's get YouTube Trev on here as well because we need to get to some business. We're going to start with the big save of the game brought to you by Christopher Boyle. There's YouTube Trev. Nice to see him. See you, Belzy. Let's go. Here we go to Christopher Boyle's big save of the game. Take care of your family with Christopher Boyle, an experienced advisor with over 17 years of experience. Safeguard yourself and your family with comprehensive coverage for tax-free benefits during hospitalization and or a fracture or a broken bone. You'll get benefits pay from day one of the incident, so you don't have to worry about the cost and loss of income due to hospitalization. Preserve your income and protect your paycheck by visiting www.christopherboyle.net. All right, YouTube Trev, you've got the big save of the game.
Well, yeah. Thank you for that, Tommy. There wasn't a heck of a whole lot of saves, but there was one tonight that Stuart Skinner did make that I did want to highlight because it did factor. It's tough to say, but yeah, you know what? Okay, it was a shorthanded glove save on Amen.
Right.
It was actually a really clutch save. 3 minutes into the second, that's what I have listed down here. It was a clutch, huge save. And what do you know, like 10 or 20 seconds after this, Ekholm would then go on to score, make it a 1-goal game. So, it could have, it was a huge save. Obviously, like I just said, it made it a 1-goal game. But the Oilers, unfortunately, they weren't able to capitalize on that a little bit more, unfortunately, but that's kind of all Stuart Skinner had going for him tonight. Was that one save in particular?
All right, that is the big save of the game brought to you by Christopher Boyle. Okay, let's go into the inbox. The nasty chat, like I peeked at it and Belzy was watching it the entire time. We were just blown away how it was humming and going crazy. A lot of people mad, frustrated, worried about the Oilers, certainly, after their 4-3 loss going down in the series another time. So that was Vancouver's first win in Edmonton in the playoffs in franchise history. Again, this is just the third time that these two teams have locked horns in the postseason. Let's go to some text here. Big Slime Nasty getting in on the action says, McDavid taking that cross-check at the end of the game is going to ignite a fire in the physical aspect of the Oilers game. It's going to change the scenery of this series. No one can stop a pissed-off McDavid, and you know what? I think the Canucks have been doing a pretty good job of containing him in this series outside of Game 2, obviously, where he had the 4-point night. Let's go to Fat Dan, says that's the new quote-unquote moral victories. Adam from Lloyd says that has to be a suspension, right? It was pretty bad. And then, well, the cross-check from behind, as McDavid is going down, you see the cross check coming. That was Cece, right? Or not Cece, pardon me, Susie. And I think he was trying to hit McDavid in the chest, but because of the cross check from the back, McDavid's going down. He eats the stick in his face. It was not good, even though it probably wasn't meant to be in his face. It ends up being in his face, the cross check. And I would think that the league takes a look at that. Pretty vicious, even though it was not the intent to get him in the face. All right, let's go to this one. It says, is it time to get Carrick in for some physicality, win some puck battles? Not the fastest skater, but Vancouver took out some players that Tocchet didn't think were good enough, and the replacements played well tonight. Nuge needs to join the series as well. I agree on Nugent Hopkins. He needs to get involved. I know he had that post in game one, but they need a little bit more from him, or a lot more, actually. And then I wouldn't mind seeing Sam Carrick in for Derek Ryan, let's say. I know he was a little bit banged up earlier in the postseason, but I think he is available and healthy enough to go if they so choose. But I'm with everybody that wants to see a little more jam and sandpaper from the Oilers because they need some. They were getting pushed around a lot tonight. All right, let's take a quick look over at the nasty chat. This one says, Susie starts it with the slash and being a dick behind the net. That's from Spency 5 Centsy. Anthony wants to see Fogle and McLeod get involved more. Yeah, they were not good. Fogle obviously admitting he had that terrible turnover that led to the Besser goal. That was an awful play. I'll say it to Bell. They're their own worst enemy, the Oilers were tonight. They gave Vancouver a lot of opportunities on top of the ones that Vancouver worked for. You can't do that. Not at this point of the season when you're already into the second round. Unacceptable. They need to be better. Bottom line, everybody, top to bottom. All right, a couple more texts here. 780-218-9999. This one from PJ says, Skinner starts versus Canucks playoffs in regular season 1-5. Goals against average 451. Save percentage 816. That is not good enough, PJ. Yep. Amen to that, brother. That needs to be much better for Stu Skinner. This text says Skinner against the Canucks is like Markstrom was against the Oilers. They have his number and score a lot of goals. Randy texting in says, I'm sorry, but isn't quote-unquote playoff Kane supposed to be the one being a pest like Miller has been? We're saying that Kane has been taking punishment as if he's soft. From Randy. I know he's dealing with his sports hernia, the athletic pubalgia, as we like to joke, because that is its proper term. But it would be nice to see him, Perry, guys like that, stir it up a little bit and be a-holes on the ice, a la JT Miller, who has been the entire time. That would be lovely. It can start on Tuesday, and I think it'll go a long way if they decide to play that way. All right, a couple more texts to get to, then we'll get to the player of the game. West End Rob chiming in says, boys, game wasn't entirely on Skinner, but he is a modern-day Andy Moog. Moog was good, but could never be, quote-unquote, the guy in the playoffs in Edmonton, Boston, Dallas. Fear Cujo and Roley could save the team when it counted. Convinced now they can't win a cup if Stu is the starter. He needs to be better, West End Rob. No ifs, ands, or buts. But I always, and in terms of winning the Stanley Cup, getting there, how does Aiden Hill do it? How does Antti Niemi do it? How did Matt Murray do it? You know, there's been guys who aren't good goalies that have won Stanley Cups and in recent memory, and I think Stu Skinner is capable. He needs to be better, bottom line, because this series he has been touched up in a big way by the Canucks. IMAC says, all I want to see is Knobloch stand up and swear his head off at Pedman and his joke treatment of star players. Pathetic reffing, pathetic Department of Player Safety. This league is laughed at because of the way it treats moneymakers. The difference with those other pairs, they play all year together in lockstep. Here they do it occasionally when the damn cup is on the line. Way too much pressure when they're are paired up. I think that's in terms of what Fogle and, or pardon me, not Fogle, but CC and Nurse is. I think that's what IMAX getting at. And and he adds that their scared players are parking in front of the net for greasy goals. Come on, Oilers, do the same. There's some choice words there that I will not use that IMAC and added in there. All right. Let's get to the player of the game, brought to you by Damon Bunting, Remax Elite Player of the Game. Damon, top producing, consistent realtor in Greater Edmonton and among Western Canadian Remax realtors. He and his team would love to help you find that right home or make the move from your current home. He's community driven and understands what it takes to make a difference in our city. Check him out, DamonBunting.com, or visit his Instagram at Damon Bunting Real Estate. YouTube, Trev, take it away, pal.
Yeah, not a lot of Oilers brought it tonight, but there is one guy that's been showing up every single night, Tommy. And again, I almost picked him the last game they played because he had a monster 4-point night. Tonight, he's a beast. He really is a playoff beast. And I read off a stat going into in the pregame. Fewest games to 90 career playoff points. Wayne Gretzky, 43 games. Mario Lemieux, 45 games. And third on that list is Leon Draisaitl, 56 games. So it's super impressive. The record, like it's the stats that he puts up. It's really impressive. And yeah, he's your player of the game. He had so many good looks tonight, and he had a post as well. But yeah, he's such a beast in the playoffs. He's one of those players that really just brings his game up in the postseason. 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points tonight, and 5 shots on net. So that he did play 30 minutes, albeit, but yeah, he was. He's just insane. He's just such a treat to watch. Yeah, Leon Draisaitl is your player of the game tonight. Tommy.
All right, nicely done. Some votes going in for Matthias Ekholm, the Viking, a goal tonight, and pretty solid. He is noteworthy indeed, but Trev decides to go with Leon Draisaitl. And Trev, good choice, pal. Good choice. It's all good. All right, we're going to wrap up with a few more texts here. Jasmine says, boys, I was flying back from Vancouver. I missed the important second period. What's her report card? Canucks playing well or Oilers playing bad? I would say the Canucks have been pretty consistent, Jasmine. For the majority of this series, it's just Edmonton with some dumb plays and doing it to themselves, shooting themselves in the foot. So that would be my answer to it. A little bit of the Oilers shooting themselves in the foot, and then the Canucks just being very consistent all series long. This one from Eddie says, no more Skinner, please. He's horror awful. Good attitude or not, he's brutal. Should be a backup at best. Save percentage lower than Darnell and CC's IQ. Boy, Eddie is fired up. Fired up, Eddie. Munchmaster Flex getting in on the action, saying McLeod is really, Stu is in his own head. He knows he's capable of better, but he's not confident to do it for some reason. It sucks. Goilers, have a good night, fellows. Munchmaster Flex. Thanks, Munchmaster Flex. And then this one says, Oilers' standard game of self-sabotage rears its ugly head again. If the Oilers were to ever play Russian roulette, they'd volunteer to chamber 5 out of 6 instead of just 1. Oof. That is harsh, but a little bit funny too in a grim way. All right, let's take a quick look over at the nasty chat. Poor coaching decisions, says Chief Andy, more than the dumb plays. Let's see what else. Some people say they want to see Pickard start in goal. You heard that Chris Knobloch was not going to commit to announcing his starter for game number 4, but he did add that we will see Stuart Skinner again, and did also say he needs more saves from his starting netminder. What do you say to that? And were you surprised, Trev, about Pickard starting the third period for the Oilers?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I might agree with the nasties here. I know Stuart Skinner is he's your number 1. He is, and obviously after game 1 wasn't his best performance. He goes ahead and he wins game 2. But I mean tonight, like there's just you see Shelov's. He made some really big saves. He big saves, and several of them. I was scrambling to find one big save for Stuart Skinner. Right, you're not going to win many games. 4 goals on 8 shots, Tommy. Like in the second period, 1 goal on 4 shots. Like that's not acceptable. So it's tough because you see the talent. He is there, but it's just I don't know if it's a little bit of time, a little bit of inexperience. Still, he's just on that last comment that you read. He just, when the moments are big, he kind of crumbles, and he's not quite there yet. I do believe in him. I really do think he has what it takes. He has the skill, and you got to remember, still a very, very young goaltender, but it hasn't quite. It's not quite there yet. So I don't mind. You get a guy, Calvin Pickard, in starting the third. I was all for it personally, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens going forward. But to start, game 4, if it's Calvin Pickard that gets the nod in net, I'm not opposed to that at all. Let Stuart Skinner just sit back for one game. Everyone has opinions. Yep. I totally understand that Stuart Skinner is your number 1 goalie, and they have went back to him, obviously. But, a change of scenery, I don't mind that as well.
Ominous says, come on, Tommy, get on the Campbell train. No, absolutely not. Dell says, YTT, I believe in Gager. And Daryl says, Skinner equals top tier backup. Ryan with a cup or bust with a question chin holding emoji. Jason says, Skinner's toast. Phyllis says, Skinner's confidence probably shaken. Mike says, we all say it's a 3-2 league, and the Oilers' goals against average in round 2 is 4. 2 full goals more than the 3-2 philosophy. We do need secondary scoring, but the Oilers have scored enough to lead 3-0. They are not getting it done, and they are self-inflicted wounds. We saw that in Game 1. We saw it again in Game 3. We'll see if they can clean it up in Game 4. Down 2-1 in this series after a tough night at Rogers Place. All right, that's going to do it for the GCL Diesel post-game show. The Oil Stream live on location here at Hudson's White Avenue. Big thank you to the entire crew for having us and being great hosts as always. And big thank you to everyone who watched, who listened. We appreciate you. You know that for Matty Kassian, Sean Bell, and YouTube Trev, I'm Tom Gazzola saying take a deep breath, Oil Country. Regroup tomorrow, mix in a water, and we will talk to you on Tuesday night. Ciao for now.